Recorded in the pits of Detroit, Michigan. Your ass is listening to Radio Underground. Shit.
Hello, everybody. This is Mike from Radio Underground, and I just want to let you guys know that we had some pretty shitty technical issues last night. There seems to be about 47 minutes just disappeared from my recording. I've been having problems with the recorder. I looked up what to do. I found out the fix, why I've been having certain issues. It will never, ever happen again. But this podcast jumps around a couple subjects, but we do the best we can. Well, I'm doing the best I can. I'm the one who recorded it, so I'll take the blame. But just to make sure you guys get some content, we're going to release it. But again, there's like 47 minutes not even on here, so it's a very short podcast for us, like not very long at all. But hopefully you guys like it, and we apologize, and it will not happen again. Burn in hell. Radio Underground, we're here, and we're talking our heads off about the Joker trailer, WrestleMania, the Dirt movie, prog metal sucking.
Yeah.
And Vince Neil sucking.
Vince Neil does suck.
He does. But I still was entertained by the movie. I still have that part of my white trash personality that I just like gutter stuff.
Oh, I watched it too, and I was entertained. I'm probably a little bit more critical of it because I have read the book, but I still was entertained.
See, I never read the book, but I heard the one scene that I was kind of hoping that I was like, how are they going to do this for the movie? When that punk rock guy told Nikki Sixx, kind of got on, like was doing the punk rock purity signaling to him, and then he nailed the guy's ear to a table.
Yeah.
And then the guy, Nikki Sixx, said he came back to the table, the nail was in there, but the guy was gone.
Yes, they didn't do that,
That was not in the movie. I was like, they're going to have that in there, but they didn't.
There was a bunch of stuff that didn't make it, and stuff that they condensed, basically. But
yeah, for an hour and 58-minute movie.
The Dirt movie is pretty entertaining. But you can't take 500 pages of just constant mayhem and turn it into a short movie like that.
And like I was telling you, I think the Machine Gun Kelly kind of impressed me because not as a pure actor, but it was like the Tommy Morrison in Rocky V. Like, wow, he actually wasn't that bad.
I thought he was pretty good,
I was
actually.
expecting him to totally be terrible, and he can kind of act.
You're looking kind of confused.
I barely know who that guy is. I know who he is because some shit with Eminem or whatever. He's some
tall, skinny white guy that raps.
Yeah.
Head to toe tattoos.
He's in the movie?
He plays Tommy Lee.
Ah.
And they actually, the funny thing is he had so many tattoos that he had to get them removed from, with makeup to play Tommy Lee.
Every day they removed his tattoos and put Tommy's tattoos on him.
Well, when he first started, when the beginning of the movie, because he was young, he had none.
Yeah.
And then he slowly allocated more over time.
But there was basically 3 or 4 hours of makeup just to paint his body every day.
That sucks.
Because he was almost entirely shirtless almost the whole movie.
You know what? Total side note for 2 seconds, because I'm going to forget it. But I guess there's some zombie movie coming out. I forgot what it's called, but the one with Iggy Pop in it,
Adam Driver, the Jim Jarmusch one.
What's that one? What's that movie called?
I'm blanking, but I know exactly what you're talking
about. All right, well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm sure people know what I'm talking about. I just saw a little meme today that said for that movie that Iggy Pop had to sit in a chair for 8 minutes every day to get makeup applied
because he's so hyper.
No, because he already looks like a fucking zombie.
Oh, yeah, but he is. He used to be a very hyper man. You couldn't get him to sit down.
Yeah, well,
you know what I didn't know about him? He's like 5'2".
He's not very big.
I mean, that might be an exaggeration, but I heard people that like talking on another podcast that met him. They're like, "Dude, he's 5'2". Like my girlfriend is 5'2", and they were like the same height.
Well, I'm trying to think. I saw him on Anthony Bourdain like a year or two ago. And I don't remember him being that much shorter than Bourdain. And Bourdain's a tall guy.
No, that's what I heard.
I mean, I'm not saying
no idea.
I
will say that like every musician that I've ever met is smaller than you expect them to be.
Usually,
every single one of them.
Yeah.
The one picture that scared me to death though is my old drummer Nick. There's a picture of him within their prime, Deicide. like when they were young.
Yeah.
Deicide are huge. Because
Yeah,
Nick is legit 6 foot tall.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're all taller than Nick by a couple inches and way fucking thicker. When like Deicide is all like pro wrestlers.
I would beat
They're
Deicide
huge.
up.
I would not fight Deicide ever. Especially the one guitar player, his fucking arm. Nick goes, look, his arm's as big as my head, and it was big as Nick's
Crazy.
head. And Nick has a big head.
He has a huge head. But the Dirt, Machine Gun Kelly was good. I actually thought everybody sort of kind of looked like their character, except for Vince.
Yeah.
Vince was, and you might know who he is. You've watched the Punisher. Well, you're wearing the shirt. The Punisher series, though, the Netflix one.
Yes.
The guy who was going to therapy and he was crazy and he started sleeping in a hole in his dad's backyard.
Yes.
Lewis.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't
He
know that
plays
actor's
Vince
name.
Neil.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
I thought the guy that played Nicky Six had way too pronounced of like a jawline.
Yeah.
Where Nicky is kind of a no jaw dude.
Yeah.
This dude had has a big pronounced.
But I think of the four, Vince was probably
it was the biggest
the worst.
difference, yeah.
Nicky Six was okay. Machine Gun Kelly as Tommy Lee was
Spot
really
on,
close.
tall
Yeah.
and lanky.
And then Ramsey Bolton as Mick Mars.
Yeah, Ramsey Bolton plays Mick Mars. Do you know that?
No
I
joke.
had no
the
idea.
guy that
Yeah.
plays Ramsey Bolton is Mick Mars.
He did
Mick
really
Mars.
good job though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, the dude's a really good actor. I'm having a hard time picturing that.
The only guy that didn't have to work on his accent to play his character was Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah.
'Cause the rest of them, what's his name's Vince Neil's guy is a Australian.
Yep.
Ramsey is Welsh.
Yeah. And the other guy is
And the other guy's a Brit.
Brit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of 5'2" musicians, Mick Mars is like
Very
fucking
short.
5' nothing.
Yeah.
And he's 60.
And
He's so old.
I know that dude that plays Ramsey's not. He's about to. I mean, obviously from being such a Game of Thrones fan, every time they show him and like Jon Snow on screen together, they're like the same height, and Kit Harington's like the exact same size as me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty short at 5'8", but Mick Mars is a lot shorter than that. I think
He was the shortest guy in the group, but not by much.
Yeah.
Because they were like, well, Nicky Six and the Machine Gun Kelly are close to the same height in the movie. And then the Vince actually looked like he might have been the guy that played Vince might have been the shortest guy.
He might have been.
But it's close between him and Ramsey.
Well, Vince is short. Vince is, look. I mean, look right there. We have a picture of him on the screen. He's not much taller than Mick. His hair is taller.
Yeah.
But,
And we were debating the Motley Crue question. Well, the one thing we all agreed on, even though we didn't agree necessarily on them, we all think Vince is terrible,
bad.
especially live.
he's objectively terrible.
But the odd thing was they recruited Vince to come. He didn't want to do it.
No.
He did not want to be a part of the band. He's the one that was always upset with how things were going and thought he was better than everybody. And like you would think, like they all have some big egos, but from what I gathered, the only one that like didn't want to, they were all like bros. Vince was always doing, fuck this, and kind of like aggravated all the time.
Well, and they didn't really show this in the movie because basically they showed it and like, hey Vince, here's our tape, check it out, and he's like, I'm not going to do this, and like he changes his mind. Is there like the next day? He's like, yeah, I'll try it out. That shit didn't happen. Like it took like 6 months. His band was falling apart, and that's when he finally said, okay, I'll try it out.
Yeah, so think about that. Think about where Vince is skill-wise, and then Tommy Lee, and the other guys are objectively. We talked about it, even if we don't, like you said, you hate Motley Crue. I thought they were okay. You liked them because of your older brother.
Yeah, but I still think they're only okay. I don't think they're great.
But Vince is the least talented person in the band. We all agree that.
Yeah, absolutely.
They couldn't get him in. Like he didn't want nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
That's fucking weird.
I wonder if they could have. I mean, I imagine they could have found someone else and still had every bit as much success or more. Because is there really Vince? Are there Vince Neil fans out there like that love
might
Vince
be.
Neil as a frontman, as a singer?
There's people that love him because of the front man. He's like considered the kid brother of David Lee Roth, a guy that
Really?
isn't talented. Yeah.
I mean, I never
He's-
saw it that way.
Actually mentored because he's in the movie for a second. David Lee Roth just doing some blow in their apartment. So he's in it for like, 30 seconds?
Yeah, he's in the movie.
He was a big part of Vince Neil's life. He basically kind of mentored him for a while
Yeah.
because of the record label.
He was their David Lee.
And they made like that was like it's like, hey, David Lee Roth's here. All right, next thing. And it's like they didn't go into that at all.
And then Ozzy mentored them on tour.
Same
That
thing.
I
Ozzy's
knew.
in it for like 4 minutes.
And he's in it briefly.
Sharon was a big part of it too, and there's like no mention of Sharon in the movie.
Yeah. But I'm sure, like, when you go to the cutting room floor, like, you got to go, okay, these guys do a lot of drugs and bang bitches, and that's... And like I was telling you guys, it ain't so much that, like, I was ever a big fan or all of a sudden I'm a huge fan and I'm buying all their music. But what it is it's a bygone era. Like, dudes can't do what they did.
No.
There's the Me Too. There's the... If you have, like, a few beers on the weekend, you're an alcoholic and everybody's concerned about you. That era is gone, and it kind of sucks that like that raw, like I'm crazy, I bang bitches, I do I don't give a shit. Like the only people that get away with it modern day are rappers. They can have the bitches. White guys aren't allowed to have the bitches. They're not. I'm sorry.
No bitches and hoes.
They won't let them have them. Even though back then you could if you're a white guy.
You're right. Motley Crue could not exist. That Motley Crue could not exist today.
No, they would all be in jail.
A lot of stuff about the 80s, a lot of those bands, I touched on it for a second last, like certain comedians, certain movies, TV shows, a lot of shit you wouldn't be able to get away with today.
What was the one Rogan just mentioned? The movie he said that aged badly. Ace Ventura.
Because of the transphobic.
It's so transphobic, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm still watching that shit and laughing. I know you're probably not a fan of it.
I hate Jim Carrey. Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't say I hate Jim Carrey.
You like anything?
Nope. No, I don't hate. I like Dumb and Dumber, although I like it more in spite of Jim Carrey. Actually, I like him all right here and there, but I hate the Jim Carrey that's allowed to like nobody reels in, like nobody can rein in, like when he's allowed to be that character, like just 100%. All I can't fucking stand him.
But when you get something where he has to be.
Even Liar was a little more restrained, like.
But like what Truman Show or Eternal Sunshine?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's a really good actor.
Yeah,
and he can definitely be funny. There were a few skits on Living Color that I really liked, but
even that got to the point where he's just so over the top. It was
when he's
Fire Marshal Bill.
When he goes too far over the top with certain characters, it just makes me like, eh.
I can see that, but I actually kind of agree with you with Dumb and Dumber because it's like one of my favorites. But I actually like the stuff around him, I think, more than him.
Yeah, I like the situations and what's happening.
Like the Gas Man and all that.
Yeah, and even Jeff Daniels.
Jeff
really
Daniels
like
is
Jeff
so
Daniels
underrated.
Yeah.
Just
Michigan's own,
like his facial expressions and like the way his face. And I remember like listening to we're kind of all over the place here. At least I am, but when he says, "You sold my deaf bird to a blind kid," like the way his like. The way he says it.
You almost said it like the Patton Oswalt version of a fat guy. Where they have like that's kind of how he said it.
But that's how he says it. I don't know. Freda Felcher.
I liked Ace Ventura because of the air button. I was in middle school. I did it to everybody.
An
inch from their face.
I don't care. I love the first one and I like the second one. I don't love the second one. They're both entertaining. I don't care. Joe Rogan be damned.
I never knew it would be like punk rock to like Jim Carrey.
I guess so.
It's like he
I
was
remember
the biggest thing ever. Now
the first time, well, not the first time I watched it, but I think it was maybe the first time you watched it with me. Where probably the first time you did watch it, but the part where he's at the Cannibal Corpse show, he's just doing a little dance, walking through.
Well, here's the weird thing about that. That was not just some random thing. It came about because in Florida, in the Florida death metal scene where they filmed that movie was big at that time, and Jim Carrey is a legit death metal fan.
But he's Canadian.
He loves Cannibal Corpse. He talked about it on Arsenio Hall, how he loves death metal.
Canadians don't like death metal. They only like Anne Murray and Bryan Adams.
Well, Jim
Gordon Lightfoot.
Look at the interview with Arsenio Hall. He talks about how he loves death metal. Jim Carrey, it wasn't to shit on it. He's a fan, an actual fan.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Death metal. But there's more things about the Dirt. I'm sorry, we keep on going back to the Dirt. Okay, yeah, we go back to it.
80s excess, but it wasn't just the 80s excess wasn't just
scene.
The squirting scene, but back more of the 80s excess in general, and it wasn't limited to the men because remember the Go-Go's had that whole scandal where they videotaped themselves having sex with that dude and shoving stuff up his butt and stuff.
Yeah, they're like roadie or something.
Yeah.
Or one of their.
It was just a
helps.
fan or something. Yeah, I thought.
Yeah.
Here's an idea. You give a bunch of young people a bunch of fame, fortune, and drugs, and they might do some crazy shit with that, whether they're male or female.
Yeah.
It just so happens that males tend to be a little more aggressive, and there happens to be a lot more successful rock bands that feature mostly males.
Yep.
So, but I'm sure, Joan Jett and Lita Ford and Doro Pesh and all those chicks from back in the day did their share of fucking around.
That you said Lita Ford, and that made me think because that was one of Nikki Sixx's on again, off again things early in the '80s too. They never talk about that. None of the famous people really ever come up.
He also had it wasn't the timeline in the movie. They came out a little later in the grunge era, but remember L7?
Yeah,
Danita Sparks was this woman for a while.
yeah. Well,
I think he fucked every chick that played a guitar that was like from L.A. or did anything in L.A. They always ended up with Nikki Sixx. He went down the list of L.A. famous chicks all the way to Kat Von D. Like that was his woman for a while.
Yeah.
So,
but but that didn't really go into his love life at all in the movie.
just heroin.
Heroin was his love,
heroin,
which is what he says in the book too.
Well,
but
they went into his abuse and his stuff early on.
yeah, but the squirting girl,
Yeah,
they called her. Her nickname was Bullwinkle, and at that part, I still don't remember. I don't remember why they called her Bullwinkle, but her real name was like Jessica or Jennifer or something. But she was only in it for that one scene in the movie.
yeah, the opening scene.
Tommy dated her for like 2 years and wouldn't break up with her because she could do that. So, but they didn't go into that. The managers, they didn't go talk about their first manager at all. The drunk Vietnam vet who would have wild flashbacks and like go crazy at random times, and then stole all their money. They didn't talk about him at all.
God, that would have been great to have that.
I know.
Guy in.
And then when they got to the next manager, Doc, they only talked about Doc and they didn't talk about the second manager, Doug, at all. But Doc was the guy who they showed in the movie. And, he's like a friendly father figure trying to take care of him, and he really couldn't reel him in. And he wasn't like that at all.
Yeah, he was probably fingering chicks with them.
Well, no, you've seen I know because we've watched it, the Bon Jovi Behind the Music.
Yeah.
The guy who set up the Russia show, and he was like a sleazy guy, he was their manager too. That's the same guy. He set up that rock in Moscow thing.
Where they're all like wearing a tube getting high.
Yeah, they flew, and it was Bon Jovi and Motley Crue and all these bands on a plane going to Russia with drugs and booze and everything.
Monsters of Rock.
Yes. But that was Doc that set the whole thing up. But Doc worked with drug smugglers and, at that point, the Russian mafia, and they made him out like he's a big Papa Bear. I'm going to take care of these guys on the road. And
he did take care of them.
Vince Neil said he was a criminal with good business sense, basically. He said he wasn't a very good guy. All the drugs they got were from him.
So was Dr. Feelgood really about Jimmy or Doc?
I don't know if they ever said, really.
Well, because
originally it was Jimmy.
Jimmy was the first-hand hood.
Dr. Feelgood's such a good video.
Yeah.
But Doc was like, and then they're like, they show him when did they fire him? Basically, when his mom.
Yeah,
he brings Nikki's mom.
Yeah, Nikki had his estranged mom show up, and Doc set it up like we got it because he was in the throes of heroin addiction and ruining his life.
Yeah,
so the Doc supposedly got his mom and brought her there. So I found out that was totally fake. That did not happen.
And a lot of stuff with his mom at the beginning of the movie. He was almost up until he was like 13 or 14, raised by his grandparents, and then moved back to his mom's.
Yeah, she was just like...
and she did suck, but that whole thing with Doc bringing her in didn't happen.
The funny thing, this isn't in any of his books, but his mom dated the great defensive lineman Alan Page from the Minnesota Vikings.
I didn't know
and he
that.
knew Alan Page as a kid because his mom dated him.
Didn't know that.
But whatever.
They fired Doc after the Moscow thing because it was such a debacle.
Yeah, but they act like because he was just trying to do right and fix the situation.
Maybe they do. They didn't talk about him giving them the drugs in the movie, but they showed it. 'Cause remember in the hotel thing, Tommy was running around naked, and they ran into his room and ducked into Doc's room real quick, and then he went out to stop Tommy before the cops got arrested. They pulled drugs out of his dresser drawer and then lay him out and just snort him real quick. So I guess they kind of showed you them getting drugs from him, but they didn't really go into it.
Yeah, I imagine there's like a lot of things that they just when they're no matter what the movie's about, they want to make a movie.
I know.
They don't want to make because like a pure documentary would be boring. Like if it was just like how things actually were, like day to day, it would kind of suck.
Yeah, but if you just made a documentary about that book and talking about the stories from that book, it would never be boring.
Well, remember we were talking about No Man's Sky, the video game?
Yeah.
And like they're making a space simulator and it's boring, and people are like, yeah, but being in space would be fucking boring.
Yeah, there's
it would
nothing
be
to do.
Action packed, whatever.
It'd be
boring.
I guess the
so
biggest
they got to doctor it up.
The biggest, yeah, but they almost did it to make them seem like it's like, oh, you feel sorry for them, but I don't want to feel sorry for them. They were complete fucking pieces of shit assholes. They didn't do anything they didn't want to do. They treated their families like shit, and they're like, "Oh, I feel sorry because he doesn't see his family and stuff." Well, he did that himself.
He cheated on like Heather Locklear left him. He's getting like blown while he's on the phone with her.
Yeah, well, with the Vince, that was the biggest one. The biggest inconsistency at all was Vince's wife, and the daughter who got sick and ended up
Skylar. Yeah,
except, well, you saw it where in the movie his woman got pregnant. And then they were having the barbecue, and then that's when him and Razzle went out driving and had the crash. That was 1987. The daughter who died wasn't born for another 4 years in real life, Skylar. So she was pregnant there with his first kid, but actually that first kid was born even 4 years before that. So basically they took his first wife and his second wife and put them together as one person.
Oh, yeah.
And then made the kid be just the one kid, except he had a whole other different kid. So the part where he comes back from the Dr. Feelgood tour and his wife has left and taken the kid, that was the first wife, and that was 5 years before Dr. Feelgood tour, and then he met the next lady. So they basically took the lady and merged into one lady and just did not talk about the first kid at all.
Well, that's serious meddling. That's not somewhat meddling.
Yeah, no, they completely changed it.
Yeah.
And then how he quit or was fired. He still says he was fired, but they say he quit.
Well, even because they did when they made the movie, I noticed that the scene where they argue, like Vince goes, "I quit," and he goes, and then Nikki says, "I'm fired." That they probably did that to like placate both guys because they both claim a different thing.
Yeah.
So like they both let him say it, like in the fight, like "I quit, I'm fired, fuck you," and then he walks off. So they want to.
Nikki Sixx fired himself.
No, Nikki Sixx. Vince Neil quit. Like, I quit, and Nikki Sixx immediately goes, "Fuck you, you're fired."
Yeah.
You're fired. You kept saying I'm fired.
Yeah, you did. So
I'm sorry, but yeah, that's what happened.
Confused.
So and that's probably why you're exactly right. That's probably why they did it, just to kind of
so they don't argue with them about what actually happened.
And then
they still both to this day, Vince and Nikki both hold their position.
It ultimately doesn't matter because they were probably both on so many fucking drugs that they probably don't recall it correctly themselves.
At that point, Nikki would have been clean, but Vince was the one holdout who didn't want to clean up, so he was still drinking and doing stuff at that point. But
you said Vince was,
yeah. Vince still wanted to keep on partying, even they showed it.
Vince still drinks, obviously.
Yeah.
Look at his body.
And even Nikki went back and did drugs again, but then he cleaned himself up again about 15, 16 years ago.
Well, every one of those fucking rock stars from back then, on again, off again, on again, off again. I mean, nobody really stays sober.
I think some of them, too, like Tommy Lee, they say he drinks, but he drinks like someone's dad that just drinks during the game or whatever. Like, he's not... There's a difference between going batshit crazy, killing yourself drinking, and then like, all right, I just need a few beers because it's Saturday, you know.
I would really. They didn't really talk about Mick's story whatsoever. They showed him drinking with them, but he didn't do the drugs and stuff. But dude was a raging alcoholic. It just he was really calm about it, even in real life. It's like they're like, we didn't realize that Mick was an alcoholic at that point because he didn't show it. He was drinking all the time.
Yeah, and we were all too busy like drinking. What was that Nick Swartzen joke? You think, man, I'd like go to a party and think I'm some badass. I was like, man, yeah, I just had fucking 24 beers, and then it's like I watched this news article. Nikki Sixx drank heroin from a fire hose. It's like, okay, I'm a pussy. Fuck that. But that's the thing when you're all like fucking junkies.
Yeah.
The alcoholic just seems like some dude.
Yeah,
like
it would be
you
like
know.
if me or you were in Motley Crue.
He was a
we would
completely
seem okay.
Yeah,
Right.
He was a completely functioning okay, except actually that same barbecue where they left, or the party they left, was actually a 4-day bender barbecue.
And then he was on the beach.
And he almost drowned, yeah. He passed out in the waves and almost drowned.
well, he said in an interview he drank, but he goes, I drank a lot. He goes, I just didn't party.
Yeah.
Like, he goes, I would be just in my bed or in my room just drinking. But they're off, blowing shit up and fighting. He goes, I had nothing to do with any of that.
I mean,
Because he had that bone disease.
Yeah.
And that's why he, like, even though he's not super old, he looks horrible.
He looks really bad.
Because
He
of
can still
the
play.
bone disease.
I think that was one of the main reasons. I knew they were probably all ready to hang it up, but when they retired, that's like 4 years ago now, something like that. It was that
in 2015 they stopped.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think it was New Year's 2015. They're like, "This is our last show."
Yeah, and they're just like quit. But like, I don't know, man. They're you get to a certain point, like it's like if your thing was like we're wild partiers. Can you be the wild party band after like 40? Can you? Like,
No.
I'm 40 right now.
I can't imagine doing that stuff they did in that. I can't imagine doing that 20 years ago.
Yeah,
I don't have the energy to be that crazy.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. But
They
like
made
I said, it was part of that. It was, like, I guess in keeping with what I wanted the theme of this to be is like
80s
this
excess.
80s excess. The wrestlers had all the pro wrestlers. We're going to talk about WrestleMania.
Yeah,
All the wrestlers, same thing. They were all partying,
all of them.
teaming up on girls. Similar the story. If you people are listening and you're a rock fan and wrestling in the same period, the guys did all the same shit. It was the same.
Absolutely.
thing. That's why they all died. They died young too.
You can't tell me in some of those promos, some of those things that Ric Flair is shooting, he didn't do some bumps of
Oh
cocaine.
God, yes he did.
That dude did some blow.
Yeah, Kate and I were talking not too. Actually, it was probably only a week ago. Because what was it? I forget how many years ago that Mitch Hedberg died. So I was watching like a little mini doc on him, and I'm thinking about like just not necessarily that era, not necessarily the '80s, but just the life of people on the road.
Yeah.
Pro wrestlers, rock stars, stand-up comics. We lose a lot of them really young. You don't really hear that as often with actors or, I mean, it does happen, obviously, but you hear it a fucking lot with, obviously, wrestlers,
Yep.
more than probably anyone else, including, musicians. But musicians probably next. Sometimes athletes, but a lot of stand-up comics.
Yeah.
I mean, not with stand-up comedy, that's a medium that everybody knows like the big names, but there are a lot of lesser known comics, like even like a Richard Jeni and stuff that people don't really all know about, and a lot of them, I think it's just life away from your family, away from your friends, the inconsistency, the instability, it leads to drugs, and you abuse your fucking body and you abuse your mind. Now with pro wrestlers, there's that extra added layer of not only is there a lot of emotional anguish and substance abuse for that, but also the physical pain that their bodies are put through day in, day out and all that. But it's you don't really, when it comes to like famous people dying young, those I think are the three professions, at least off the top of my head, that seem to be the most prominent in terms of losing people at such a young age.
Anything with that kind of touring background where you're on the road all the time, it seems to be that short lifespan.
Yeah, whether you have a family at home or not, I mean, whether it's you and your buddies partying it up, the human body isn't meant to constantly consume toxins and poisons, and and it's too bad.
It's the mental thing, especially with the guys that do have families and stuff at home. You're away from your family 5, 6, 7 months, a year. You don't see them, and you go back and see them for a couple weeks, or even with the rock bands, you're on tour for 2 years. You might not see your family much. So it's the mental, and they're using just to cope with that.
And a lot of them, like at least the musicians and the comedians, especially the really good musicians and comedians, there's something about, especially in stand-up comedy, there's something about the way they tend to be depressive personalities. You know, those really observant comedians that like notice everything. And I'm not talking this is like a Jerry Seinfeld. You ever notice it? But people who are really deep thinkers tend to often be able to fall into depression a lot more easily. And when you're put in a situation where you're on the road,
really dim. But you have to have sort of a dim worldview in order to observe some of the stuff they're saying.
Well, the more observant you are, the more you're going to also observe like and obsess over like the not so positive things.
Yeah.
And I'd say as far as like the desire, I think with comedians or any entertainers, you know, because any musician could just write music for themselves and not go and, you know, sign with a record company and try to sell their shit to, you know, people. You know, it just happens with the comedians. That's their craft. Like, you know, they're not musicians. They don't know how to write a song necessarily. Although this is like a total sidetrack here, but you know what I can't fucking stand? Comedian musicians or musician comedians.
All of them?
The fucking comedians that get up there with a piano or a guitar. I can't think of any of their names right now, but I don't like the comedy
You don't like
songs.
Bo Burnham?
Who?
Yeah.
Bo Burnham?
That name rings a bell, but and I'm going to say no, I don't.
Yeah.
Or someone will like share it in your timeline. Hey, check this out! And it's like a guy with a guitar. I'm like, nope, I don't.
Yep.
And that's ironic because I was in a comedy band.
Well, I only brought
a comedy band is different. Like if you're talking like Green Jelly or like you know certain stuff like that, that's fine. But like,
well, I only bring up Bo Burnham because I know a lot of people that like him. He's got a couple. He's got 1 or 2 Netflix specials plus a bunch more that weren't Netflix. But he basically observational stuff. He'll make fun of stuff. He'll play music, play songs, blah, blah, blah. And not everybody know, you guys don't, but there's a few people I know that like him a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to watch him. He's going to crack me up. And I'm like, no. It's like 17 minutes in. I'm like, nope, I don't need to watch any more of this guy.
Well, they're talking about the 80s excess.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're talking about stand-up comedians.
Uh-huh.
Sam Kinison. He was like, he would go up there with Bon Jovi and shit. That was his thing. Like, I'm the rocker. Ah! So like,
did he do drugs?
Was friends with Motley Crue.
Did he do drugs?
Yeah.
Wasn't Vince Neil or wasn't Sam Kinison in a Motley Crue video, if I remember correctly?
He was. I forgot. I can't think of it right now, but he definitely was. Yeah.
But yeah, no, he was he was in that same era, and he was like he was a guitar player. He was a big rock guy. Now he didn't incorporate a lot of music into his act, though.
No.
Like that wasn't a shtick.
But you could tell like he hung around them.
Yeah,
people,
and he
guys.
did. He played music. He recorded songs on some of his like live albums. Like he had
fucking horror.
He had Wild Thing, whatever. He fucking covered.
I was just gonna say Wild Thing.
Yeah, he covered even some Stone songs, Under My Thumb, and
that's the next thing popping up.
Yeah, so
everything Stone says is popping up in my phone.
Yeah, well, I was pretty familiar with Sam Kinison back in the day. That's speaking of again, like I touched on a week ago, and you just mentioned shit you can't get away with.
Oh yeah,
I mean the AIDS jokes, the gay jokes,
world hunger,
or even like the stuff, even the stuff that like bordered on racism, because he would always shit on rap music, which you would have to kind of twist into racism. I don't think he was a racist type person. He just hated fucking hip hop and rap. But the fucking I can't even repeat. I don't want to go there, but it was a different era for sure.
It's just sad that like. That era, you can't even repeat what people said on a podcast where, in theory, there's no censorship.
Look,
it's gay and it would kill it one chick. If my cat were 70 pounds, it would destroy your mastiff. It would break it right in two.
Absolutely.
And shred it to bits.
Think about this.
Okay.
It's got cat-like speed and reflexes.
A gray wolf, and a mountain lion are roughly comparable in size.
Okay, yeah.
And some wolves can be bigger than mountain lions. 9 times out of 10, like when they confront each other in the wild, if it's a lone wolf, that mountain lion's gonna fucking destroy it. A cat, they're I mean, and wolves. I mean, dogs are domesticated from wolves.
Yes,
dogs, African wild dogs, wolves, they're pack hunters. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed for the chase. They're designed to kill as a unit. Cats, outside of lions, cats are solitary hunters. the way they can twist, even just being able to do this, like twisting their wrists and stuff, the way their claws can dig into something and then bring something down, they're built
They're a killing machine.
built for killing individually.
Now, I got to admit, I would love to have a 15-pound pet bear that never got bigger than 15 pounds.
Yeah.
You could own it then, right?
I guess a bear is almost kind of like a hybrid. When you think about that way, like the way a bear is kind of physically designed, the anatomy of a bear, it can do like it's got like different paws and shit than wolves, right? A bear can like grab shit but they're very much they're. I could get real scientific here, but I'm going to try to snooze everyone
like
out.
A dog.
They are. They're related. So you've got the class Carnivoria, whatever. That's dogs and cats. Then you've got caniform and feliform. Feliform is cats. Caniform is dogs. And so within that family, you have wolves, bears, seals, raccoons, and you can go down the list.
We're going full Rogan right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then with cats, you've got cats for the most part, and weasels. Weasels fall more into the cat family.
It all comes around. They're evil.
And we get into weasels.
So
them motherfuckers, pound for pound, are the most dangerous.
But
a Wolverine will fight a pack of wolves, man.
I feel it's weird though that they put weasels and like mongoose like in like the same camp as cats, because when you really look at a weasel, like otters are technically, I think, like weasels.
I think so. Yeah,
I could be wrong about
they
that.
are a weasel, absolutely.
Wolverines, and hyenas technically are more closely related. Badgers,
a weasel, absolutely.
So yeah,
honey
more honey badger especially. But honey badger is actually not actually a badger, but that's
just the name they gave it.
Yeah, so
I heard the honey badger is a Wolverine that's been de-haired. They're like the same animal, basically.
They're similar, but they resemble dogs more. Like if you look at a hyena, that they more closely resemble a dog, but technically their DNA is closer to a cat.
It could be just the form they take per what their job is,
right? Because they don't have retractable claws. They're built more like you look at an otter and a seal, and there's differences, but there's a lot of similarities. Or like a skunk. Actually, I'm trying to think.
A skunk's very close to a cat.
Yeah, but I'd have to do some more research on it. I could be wrong, but
the thing of getting the dangerous killing animals, they're the one animal. Well, it's the family of them that I can't even handle. Like when I'll watch it on TV, and it still makes me nervous. And if I played Assassin's Creed Origins, where I'm in Egypt and you're in the water, I am morbidly horrified of crocodiles and alligators. I fucking hate them.
Well, that makes sense.
Actually, just the sight of them bothers me. I'm fucking scared. Like
so if you went to an aquarium or something like that,
I would not want to be anywhere near one of them.
I just don't want to be in the water where they may be.
Well,
right.
Well, that'd be really like people like go on spring break and shit.
The funny thing is,
Florida, man,
you have good reason, because people always talk about they're afraid of wolves or bears or tigers. Well, tigers you actually should be afraid of.
Yeah,
but crocodiles and alligators and those fuckers they'll straight kill you. Like there's not. I mean,
it's a fucking dinosaur that's alive today.
Yeah,
that's basically what it is.
And they're not like
and they got armor on them, dude. They look like fucking something you'd kill in Dark Souls, but it's there.
Yeah,
it exists.
All you gotta do is hold its snout down. That's all you gotta do.
Especially crocodiles, because they're they're a lot bigger than alligators. Generally, they are. They will, if you're in their fucking turf, they will definitely take you down. A lot of other kinds, like bears, they don't want you fucking around their territory, but for the most part, if they know that you're around, they'll just try to move away from you. Wolves, they're not really a threat to you. Even mountain lions, as long as now tigers, that's a little bit different, but even lions, they don't necessarily want to hunt you. But in Africa, for example, hippos are the most dangerous and will kill more people. Crocodiles, I think, are next to them.
They're very territorial.
I mean, well, look at the size of them. But you got a lot more to fear from a crocodile than you do a lion.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well,
or a shark.
Well, the thing is, because it's a goddamn lizard, which means it's dumb. It's dumb as shit.
Well, they're
it's not
probably
an animal, and it's just gonna fucking attack anything it feels it can overpower. Where like an orca, which is technically the most dangerous, murderous hunter there is, because they're hyper intelligent. Never once there's been a documented attack in the wild of them attacking a person. They always attack people at SeaWorld when they're stressed the fuck out.
Right.
But they don't do it.
Did you post that while you're outside smoking? About the T-Rex?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that brings me with like the Jurassic Park thing. Everybody likes dinosaurs and shit. I don't want dinosaurs here. Dinosaurs,
We're sorry.
Fuck off. I hate reptiles. They gross me out. And I hate them.
I just, we're going to call you out a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Stones Malone posted this while I was outside smoking. If I could be any animal, I would be a T-Rex. Not because they're cool or badass or anything. It's just that I'd be dead 65 million years before Motley Crue ever existed, and I wouldn't have to keep hearing about this dumb movie.
Yeah, that was me.
I was going to bring up one more thing about the dirt, but I won't now.
No, you can't.
I wasn't going to.
I couldn't piss everyone off with the dog killing my dog post, so I have to piss everyone off with something because like 65% of my friends list have been talking about this and how awesome it is. So I've been trying. I've been flirting with the idea of just. Sometimes it's fun to just poke at people and irritate them.
I absolutely agree.
You know? So like that was like the thing. I posted that Joker video or whatever, and I'm like, the original like recording of that, I was just shitting all over every Marvel movie and like going real hard on it. I'm like, I should probably re-record this because
dial it back.
Most of the people really like these movies, and I don't want to like, like right at the outset of the video, be like, comic book movies are fucking dumb.
They're the worst. Yeah. No, like I said, The Dirt was not a good movie. It was entertaining.
Well, one thing about nonconformists, they're all the same. That's what I found.
What, comic book movies or
nonconformist?
Actual nonconformist.
No,
I will definitely conform to some shit. But I'm not one of those contrarians.
But all joking aside, you ever like these nonconformist people that like we're all gonna remember when we were growing up, it was Marilyn Manson. We all like Marilyn Manson. We don't like what society like. Yeah, but you all dress like each other.
Yeah, we're all individuals that
so like
dress
the
exactly
most punk
alike.
rock person in my life is my fucking dad.
Yeah,
he don't leave the house. Like you want to talk about punk rock? Your dad. Any one of you listening right now, if your dad's like 60 or over, your dad is more nonconformist than fucking anyone.
He does whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, whose dad doesn't do exactly what he wants, say exactly what comes to his mind, doesn't care if he's hated by the wives of the sister. Like, they don't give a shit.
Because of their generation, they didn't take the best care of themselves, so they're dealing with the repercussions now, but they don't care.
It's hard for me to take you seriously when you say, I just don't give a fuck what anyone thinks, when you spend like... You've got like $7,000 worth of tattoos on you. You took like 2 hours each day to get that hair just right. You put those stupid gauges in your ears. Yeah. You're very concerned with what people think of you. You just want it to be a certain type of person, right? So you're no different than the fucking, whatever, preppies and...
Well, I'll tell you what.
The socias.
The people that they make fun of, like, the people of Walmart... The people of Walmart, the fat people in like the sweatpants, I got sweatpants on right now. That's who don't give a fuck. If you can go to Walmart with a mullet and you're not aware that you have a mullet, and you're like 400 pounds and you're like in public thinking you're awesome, that guy is cool because he really doesn't.
He doesn't really care.
He doesn't know that he's not supposed. He has no clue that he's like.
He might
weird.
have a clue. Maybe he has a clue and doesn't care.
Yeah. That's not giving a fuck.
Yep.
Any one of you who if you've taken a picture of yourself, any one of us, because I've done it. If you take a selfie of yourself, you give a fuck. Anybody that's ever taken a selfie, you give a fuck. I don't want to hear your opinion.
Yeah,
on not giving a fuck.
Look, here's the thing: if you have a social media account at all, you pretty much give a fuck, at least to a small degree. Yeah, I want to see what everybody's doing. I want to fucking share my stuff with people. You care.
Again, my dad, no social media ever. Nope. He doesn't give a shit.
And you know who else cares? The people who say they don't. I'm deleting Facebook because it's dumb, and like they have to go on like a 50 fucking minute tirade about why they're fucking Facebook. Quitting and why they don't care. And I see it a lot. Like I'm in a couple like YouTuber groups or whatever for small. They're useless. But I see it all the time. People are always posting why I'm taking a break from YouTube. And they'll go on like a 20-minute video about, and then they'll be back like in
5 days.
A week, 2 weeks. Yep. They just, whatever. They ran out of ideas, and that's the truth of it. And
I don't.
Everybody does what they do for some level of attention. I wouldn't be doing a podcast if I didn't like attention. I'm not doing it because I think what I think he's going to heal the world.
Yeah, but you're not doing it because you're not doing it because you're an attention whore, though. You're
No,
doing
I'm
it
not a
because
full-on attention
You're
whore,
bored, just
but
like
I'm
we
bored,
are.
and I think it would be cool to talk about what I think is relevant, which is not.
Conversations are fun. Okay, that's the bottom line. Engaging with other people are fun. That's the great thing about social media. There are people that I've, you can make, just like Xbox Live or playing video games and stuff. You can make friendships with people. It's just you're interacting with people, right?
Yeah.
It's just how much of that is actually you being interested in what other people have to say versus how much of it is just you, me, and then you don't really give a fuck.
80% that with me, but I am interested in other people too. But or you got friends that like. I don't want to. I'm not going to say it. Never mind. There's just people. All right, I'll fucking say it.
Just say it. Just
like,
go with it.
Because they go on there, and then they whine about their how I can't take whiners.
Yeah.
Online whiners. I'm not talking about if you come to me as a person face to face. I don't care if any of you are listening. I'll hear you out because if we're just like two of us in a room, then I know you're like
you're confiding in
you're
someone as a
hurting.
friend.
Yeah, you're fucking hurting.
That's different.
But when you go online, like I just can't find a good girl, and I can't do this no more, and I can't take it. I don't want to hear that shit, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
instead of taking that time to,
it's
to
like,
change
dude,
things.
Come to me and tell me that, and I'll respect you. But like going online. I don't know. I hate to be a sexist, but as a man to do that, dude, come on, men don't. You should not be doing that if you're a guy.
No one should be doing that.
But women, it's at least somewhat understandable. They have higher emotions.
Yeah,
and it's also a good sign of substance abuse. When they're doing that, I'm like, because like, I don't know, man. I drink on the weekends, and I feel like sometimes saying things that are on you're more emotional because you're drinking. But I would never like pick up that fucking log on to Facebook like, you know what, man? I'm just so sick of dude, you think it, don't say it.
There's one exception, and
talk to a friend.
I don't want to be a downer. There is one exception because I've seen it a few times recently. I guess we're at that age now where people die a little more.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems to be people that.
I'm not talking about death.
Yeah,
that's not what I'm talking about.
When people start spiraling out of control over that's something where it's like it's probably still it's still probably not what you want to do, but I get it, and I'm like, you know what I mean. I totally understand.
Yeah,
that's I'm never going to judge someone for that. But when you're talking about like, my wife's being a bitch, or this person fucked me over, or blah, blah. It's like, dude, that's not white trash at all.
Stuff like that, I always go back to the Bon Jovi way. You keep it in the band, in the house, basically, at that point. You keep it amongst yourselves.
What?
So if you like, oh, my wife's being such a bitch, don't broadcast
Was Bon Jovi known for...
No, if you watch, you got to watch Behind the Music from VH1,
oh, okay.
Matt. But basically, their thing was, you always keep it in the band. Basically, keep it in-house. That's what you're supposed to do. You deal with it amongst yourselves. You don't broadcast it to the world. You deal with it. It's like, oh, my wife's being such a bitch. Your wife might not be such a bitch in 5 minutes from now. Why are you gonna put that out there?
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be a miserable
Bon
person
Jovi,
that
wise.
has a generally negative outlook on life like I do the opposite. I always try to be funny because I always try to make people like feel a little better about themselves.
My sole purpose when I go on
to
Facebook,
like get you into my mind, to like all my dark thoughts. Like that's if you're a dark person and you're trying to drag people into you, man, fuck you. Because I am darker than you, and I won't do that.
You'll get there.
Yeah, I don't want to. There's no reason to do that. I can be darker than the darkest person you know, and be a fucking total drag. But that's retarded.
I shouldn't say my sole purpose, but one of my main purposes, besides first, when I go on social media, it's like I want to see what people are doing, like you just said. Secondly, like I want to find funny shit. That's my I want to either post or find stuff that's funny. I'm not on there for anything else. I don't post political stuff. I don't post rants or anything. It's like I want to find funny shit or messed up shit.
Something to perk your day up just a little bit.
Even if it's messed up and it's like an accident where people blow up and die. At least it's entertaining.
Yeah. I honestly
did not die in vain.
There are people who I feel bad for having to block because I actually like them, and sometimes they post interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But there's like a handful of people that I've had to block from my newsfeed on Facebook, for instance, because they're like post whores, or they just post constantly, and it's a lot of it's like politics. All right. I can't fucking look at this shit anymore. I gotta block you.
That's what I should specify. It's not if you're somebody who doesn't post that stuff, and all of a sudden you post something political. I'm like, oh fuck that guy. It's the nonstop stuff.
The torrent of it.
Yeah.
Honestly, and then there's like the mundane shit, like, man, I got a parking ticket today.
I don't care.
Whatever. I scroll through Facebook, and really, what the most I should just unfollow everyone and only keep like Clickhole in my fucking newsfeed. That's like about the only thing I was like, what's Clickhole doing today? Like that's the only thing that like makes my day just a little brighter and makes me like remember why I enjoy Facebook in the first place. When you see a headline that says like fat white kid in dashiki, fat white kid in dashiki strips nude on bus and gets kicked off for or something like that, that brightens my day up a little bit. And every once in a while, I do have some musician friends who will post like an interesting project. But outside of that,
yeah, well, social media, if you use it for what it's good for, like networking and just like talking to people, it can be good. It's like anything; it can be good or bad. But when you go down that rabbit hole of arguing with people and constant negativity, it can be really bad. It can get bad quick.
Yeah, if one of our friends posts something about making cheese to their snobby cheese younger sibling because they're a cheese snob. I'm not going to name any names, but he sent him instructions on how to make his own early 19th century cheese. So something like that, that's entertaining to me because he's making fun of, well, it's Frank, because Frank loves cheese.
Yeah, right. Was it Dwayne or Ben?
It's Ben. Ben's like, now you can make your own cheese to be snobby about.
Yeah.
His $30 half-pound cheese.
Frank is like the consummate fucking weekend millionaire. He'll like show up like you gotta, and he'll have some like import beer, and he'll say you gotta drink it this way, and he'll start like rolling it on my like couch, like all right, man.
Did he do the beer roll?
you got to go through this process.
Yeah, and he did like this is the only way you could do it. Okay, take the cup, and this
no, the cup thing. Now
you know what, dude?
No, I do. I have purchased beers where you're supposed to roll the can. It's because, in fact, like 2 weeks ago, I think you drank one of them thinking it was a Coors Light, but it was a New England IPA. You're supposed to roll it first because the sediment, they don't filter it. It still has sediment in it. So you're supposed to roll it, and then you're not supposed to drink the bottom of the can. But you probably didn't know that.
I don't think I got that far because it was at that. I got halfway through with it before Bobby tore my arm off, and like I had to go.
But there are beers like that. But the people like it's like you got to pour it this exact angle. You have to use this kind of cup.
No, that's Frank.
Yeah,
you're describing fucking Frank.
I hate that shit.
Did, and I'm not. I don't want to rag on the guy because he's not here, but I'm going to because he's not here.
I'll tag him in it so he can defend himself all he likes.
We were over there, and this was well before the podcast. This is probably like 7-8 months ago.
On me anyway.
And it was honey. We were talking about honey, and he's like, check out this. And he puts his honey on the table. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. It's raw organic. We get that from a place near here. We find like these fairs that have it, and that's where we get it from. It's like, no. You can't get this kind of stuff here in Michigan. I'm like, yeah, you can. I just purchased some that says the same exact stuff. He's like, nope, I had to get this on Amazon. It's like, Frank, you can get this stuff here. I swear to God, I have a whole giant jar of it at my house. He's like, no, it has, and it's pasteurized. I'm like, no, it's not pasteurized. We had an argument about, like a 5-minute argument about honey.
Well,
because his was the only kind you can get like that here.
Well, his has to be special.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair to Frank, his weird like searching for new things all the time, it eventually helped me out in my life in a couple ways. As much as I make fun of him about it, and one of the ways is like I got to remember Fable came out.
Yeah,
Fable 2. I didn't play Fable 1 until later. I back engineered that.
In fact, you still have my copy of that, don't you?
You want it back?
No, I just want to make sure that I know where it is.
But like, and he came up to me and he's like, "Hey, you're playing Fable 2. you need to play this game here. And I go, what game? He's like, it's Dragon Age.
Oh, yeah.
I never played anything by Dragon Age. I never played Mass Effect, anything BioWare made. I'm like, no, I'm cool with, he's like, no, this game's way better. Frank always, he's a one-up guy. Everything he's got's better. And I'm like, I thought it was a one-up, and I played it. It was really good. I don't know if it was better than Fable 2, but it was very good, and I really enjoyed it. And
I spaced out for a second there. What was the game?
Dragon Age.
Oh, I never played it.
Dragon Age Origins. So I played it. I had a great time. Like, Frank, thank you. And then I got into, the kind of the RPG type games like that. And he's like, there's a game coming out called Skyrim. And I'm like, nah, because I don't know what game I was playing at the time. He goes, Skyrim's going to be better than this. And Frank always shits on everything I like to tell me about something better.
He was right.
But when Skyrim came out, I'm like, oh my God, Frank, thank you for telling me about this. So his exploratory nature of shitting on everything I enjoy has made my life better.
Well, look, here's the deal. Here's the deal, though. You're talking about video games, and if there's one thing that I think most of us, or at least all three of us in the room, I know I would concede to Frank for the most part. When he talks about video games, he knows what he's talking about. Like for the large part, Frank knows video games.
Well, the thing is, like he's probably the most knowledgeable gamer on the podcast. Morgan is a better gamer, and I'm going to put this to rest because they keep arguing. Morgan is better than Frank at games. If they play a mutual game, it's close. It is always close, but Morgan is a little bit better. I don't know what part of his brain works where he's good, but Morgan is very good at video games.
Agree to disagree. I think Frank's better. Just because I want to keep the argument going.
Yeah. Honestly, I think I've played against
Frank knows more about games than Morgan.
Yeah.
I think.
Sorry.
I would bet that Morgan's probably better at like the shooters, and Frank would probably trounce him in the fighting games.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. That's a fair
actually, that's one point that Morgan has made no bones about. Unless it's Killer Instinct, Frank will trounce him.
I think that if you took a video, okay, so Morgan, blah blah blah, Killer Instinct, Frank, blah blah blah, Mortal Kombat. But if you took eliminate those two, and I would be willing to bet that if you put like a fighting game on the table that like neither of them have ever touched,
it's
Frank would win.
It's Frank, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'll concede that Morgan would probably take him, and maybe
when we play shooters together, like man, I'm not trying to start shit. Morgan is slightly better, generally. Not always, but generally he's better at shooters. That said, Frank, if he has a thing about video games where he has Frank has great recommendations. If Frank tells you a game's good, it's good. But my
I usually ignore him only because he'll recommend a bunch of games. I'm like, well, I don't got $180 to go buy these games right now.
That's me too.
And the irony is, like, I for years tried to get him into the Soulsborne stuff.
Yeah,
like everything Miyazaki put out. Like, Frank, you got to play Souls. He wouldn't do it. Finally, he did it. So he burned through all them games. And of course, he's better than me at all of them already. I had like 2 years, and I've been playing them 5 years. But he's the only guy on the show that's playing Sekiro right now, and I haven't talked to him about it, like what he thinks of it.
Oh, he's not.
He's playing it. I don't right now, probably as we speak.
I thought he was on the Division 2 still, but okay.
No. Well, he went through that, but so he's. I want to get his assessment, and when he comes back, I'm going to talk to him and see what he thinks of it.
I just can't believe how many people want them to have an easy setting on that game. It's still going on. Every day is something new. People.
Why do you want an easy? Look, man, I made no bones about it. I am not a good gamer. I am, I can't say I'm the worst because lots of people give up at the Souls games and games I've beaten. But I'm not good. Compared to the people that play them regularly, I'm not good at anything. But I power through. Why can't you just learn how to play the fucking game?
That's the point of it, is you're supposed to grind your way through. You're supposed to figure out how to do
good. Here's the thing, though. I think, what I think maybe some of the divide is, and I could be talking out my fucking ass, people in our age, from our generation, we remember Nintendo. Some of those fucking games were goddamn hard, but you played them anyway, and you kept trying and trying and trying. People want an easy out. Like, if it doesn't come easy to you and you can't progress through and fucking complete the game relatively easily, some people don't want anything to do with it. Dude, and that's where those snobs, I can't stand the fucking, like, I don't know, I guess, for lack of a better term coming to my mind, the snobs they always say, they use terms like fucking casuals, get good casual, whatever. I think that's where that comes from a lot of the times, because the people that are just, this is too hard, I don't want to fucking, and they fucking want to just throw the towel in. And I don't play any of those games. I don't play any of the Souls games or any of these, like, whatever the fucking guy's name is that you're talking about. Miyazaki, whatever. Never played a single one of those games. But from what I could assume, that's kind of the whole appeal. Like, the game, when you purchase a game that this guy created, you're in for a challenge. That's the appeal.
Yeah.
So why fuck with that? Hey, you're not into a fucking challenge? Stay away. Don't buy the fucking game.
That's the thing that gets me, is it's the people that are, two of the main articles I read are people who have played all his games and for some reason now are lobbying for an easy setting. So you already beat his games. You know what you're getting into.
I'll tell you what it is. And it's 100% what it is. They beat all the Souls games where you can summon help.
You can summon somebody, have somebody help, yeah.
And they didn't really beat the game. I beat Dark Souls 1 alone. I did not have help.
They don't have that.
Because the game was no longer popular when I played it. I didn't have fucking help. I had one boss fight help that whole fucking game, and it was Gwyn, the last fight, and it's actually one that's very ironically, Dark Souls, the final fight of the whole game, isn't the hardest by any stretch of the imagination.
That jumping, flying wolf knife mouth thing sounds.
Sith is the hardest. People will go back and forth. Oh, this is the best. No, dude. That wolf, he puts a sword in his mouth. I probably died 30, 40 times before I beat it.
So it's what it is. They don't have that phone a friend instant answer that you can get from the Dark Souls games in the new game.
No,
Sekiro.
well, if you play Sekiro, you have to beat it 100% alone.
So I would rather have that. If I could beat a game like that by myself with nobody helping me, I'd be like, fuck yeah.
I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do it to just prove, because I'm a shit gamer. I suck. And I'm going to prove that you're just fucking lazy. You people out there that are calling for easy mode or them to, fuck you. You suck. That's your problem. Because no one I know sucks more than me. I'm terrible. And I still beat that fucking Dark Souls 1 alone.
And here's the thing, though, too, about that, especially if you're not the greatest gamer on earth. There's a certain sense of accomplishment when you do finally achieve something that's not easy, that you feel better about it. Like I don't know. The sense of accomplishment is greater, and it's more rewarding.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's why I beat Dark Souls 1. Everyone was like, when you beat it, you'll feel real happy about yourself. I didn't believe it until I beat it. I'm like, dude, I guess I'm not that bad. I beat a game that many people quit, because there's forums of people like when Dark Souls going, this game sucks. They quit. Everybody quit. And I'm going to beat Sekiro to prove that even a shit gamer can beat that game.
So I'll say this. And I'm not going to give any examples because I'm a little in the bag now, and I'm not going to be able to think of any. It can be frustrating when you're trying to to get past a certain point in a game, and you just keep dying and dying and dying, and it can take you like over a fucking hour to get past one little fucking part, right? There are two different scenarios. There are certain games that are just, it's like a really fucking dumb thing, or like something real fucking cheap you might be getting killed because of a shitty design element within the game. Okay? And that is frustrating, and even when you get past it, you may not have that feeling of like accomplishment. It might just be like, finally I got past that stupid fucking part. Now I can actually enjoy the game. But there's no like sense of reward. And then there are other games where you might spend 2-3 hours trying to get past one part, it might be very difficult, but it was designed well in a way that's supposed to make it difficult. And when you finally cross that line, now you got that sense of accomplishment. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like they're
Absolutely, yeah.
so. And again, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I will say, like, okay, so I was replaying Far Cry 5, I guess. I know you've obviously played it. I'm not sure if you.
No,
have.
I'm familiar though.
Great game.
So there in that game there are there's 4 bosses.
Is that the
whatever.
New Dawn one?
No, New Dawn's the sequel,
that's the newest
spiritual sequel or whatever to it.
What we're talking about is about almost a year old.
It's about a year old, yeah. So like there are 3 different territories you have to conquer or whatever, and there's like a different boss for each one. And one of the bosses, Jacob, for those of you who are familiar with the game, he's definitely his territory is the hardest, and and he's got the hardest challenges. You have to fight. You have to go through like 3 or 4 different stages within each territory. You're going to get captured like 4 different times before you finally clear it. Well, with this guy, you have to get through like this little segment that's like timed. Like you start with like 30 seconds on the clock, and each person you kill adds an additional 4 seconds. And so you have to. It's like one of those things where you have to like kill, and get through it in a certain amount of time. You have to make a certain amount of kills though to keep that time up. You follow me?
Yeah.
So I'm not the best FPS guy, okay, and that's one of those rare games that is an FPS that I actually did enjoy, and I was like, fuck, dude, I kept getting killed. I'm just not that good. Like you're saying, I'm just not that good at this game. And when I finally got past it, it was like, fuck yeah. Like the last time you have to do that little mission, it's the hardest point. And so there was a sense of accomplishment, but I've also played games that are just, fuck, I keep dying because the controls suck. You know what I mean? Or it's like there's some shitty design element, and it's like, that makes me just not want to play the game again.
Well, I guess if that was the gripe with Sekiro, I would understand it a little bit more. But everything they've said is that the controls are beautiful, the game's beautiful, everything's great. It's just the one guy, and we watched the video last week here. I think it was before you got here. The guy who actually wrote this article for Forbes, he's a game reviewer for Forbes, which I know that was a thing. I thought it was just business, but he said he spent a week on one part of the game and couldn't get past it. You just suck. It's not that the game's hard.
Yeah.
You just suck. 1 week on one part of the game? Just try harder or stop playing it. I don't know what to tell
or
you.
you go to trusty YouTube
Yeah.
and you get a few tactical advice.
At that point,
And
you
then
try.
you beat
If you
it.
try for a week and you want to watch a walkthrough for that one part, please.
I want to ask you guys something. Do you guys feel that, because what you just mentioned, go to YouTube, do you guys feel that maybe developers might be relying on that a little bit here and there? Like, because and again, I can't think of any examples, but I feel like I've played games where, especially when it's like a railway game, like that's not like a sandbox, that's
Yeah.
maybe supposed to guide you down a certain path, and it's like, fuck, they're doing a terrible job at showing me where I need to fucking go or giving me any insight as to what I'm the fucking supposed to do here, right? And I gotta fucking Google this shit. Back in the day, you didn't have that, right?
No.
You had, so the game had to be designed in such a way that you could actually fucking complete it. And again, I feel like an idiot because I can't give any examples, but I feel like there's been a few moments over the past few years that I've run into shit like that where it's just like, fuck, dude. And sometimes you Google it and feel like, you slap yourself in the head. I'm such a fucking dummy. It was obvious. That's me being dumb.
But there's parts.
But then there are other times like,
yeah.
I would have never fucking guessed that or figured it out. Like, what the fuck?
I know it wasn't you,
Absolutely.
but maybe it was. Didn't you have like a moment like that with Last of Us where
Yeah, I quit the game.
he
Yeah,
quit the
we
game?
were just talking about that.
Yeah.
I quit the game, and the funny thing is I'm talking all this shit about but I didn't go and say Last of Us needs to change their business model and I hate them.
Yeah,
I
because
went
you
on
can,
to say I get why the game's so popular. I get why people like it, the story, but I didn't like how it played. Like it didn't suit me.
That's and then I went on because I love that game. It's like
Yeah.
top 3 for me. That is the part that he's talking about is the single part where I'm like, dude, this is some fucking bullshit.
I gave up.
It's some fucking bullshit. And that's exactly. I was saying I couldn't think of any examples. That's the perfect example because there's a point in that game at which, it's not a sandbox game. It's a railway game. Like you go along a certain beaten path, and most of the time there's like a street light that your eyes are naturally drawn to. The game will kind of guide you as to where you're kind of supposed to go.
Okay.
And there's a point at which it's at night, you're going down this fucking street, and the cops show up, or the military shows up, and you got to sneak past them. They make it. It's when he started complaining about it, like, dude, I gave up at this part. I didn't have to think for 2 seconds to know exactly.
You knew
which part
exactly
it
what he
was
was talking about. Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I remember getting really fucking pissed because I tried so many different fucking methods to get around it. And I mean, eventually I got through it. But yeah, that was the one point in the game at which I just felt like they did kind of a poor job at, like,
It wasn't.
I feel like the majority of players, as much as they may have loved the game, probably died more than a few times the first time they played through that scenario.
But when
even the second or third time you played through it, if it's been like a few months, you might forget.
But you didn't have that aha moment, like, oh, that makes so much sense. It was like,
no, I was just like, oh, come on, dude, that's fucking dumb. Like, I mean, well, I guess I should say it's somewhere in between those two things. It wasn't it wasn't like total bullshit, but it was a little bit of bullshit.
I got you.
They didn't do the best job at, like, kind of guiding you into, So when I'm met with like, I don't mind being met with a challenge.
No, it's
but,
a video game. It's supposed to be challenging.
Even like a super difficult challenge. But if it's something that's like, dude, that's just shoddy design. Like, how was anyone ever supposed to figure this out? That's a different thing. I feel like this instance that I'm talking about here in this game, it's somewhere in the middle. It wasn't total bullshit, but it also wasn't like, I don't know.
It's like Aladdin for Sega Genesis. Because that's or maybe it was Lion King. I can't remember.
Lion King is really hard.
It's Lion King one. There's like a certain point where nobody can get past. In fact, I think to this day, no one's ever beaten it. That's probably not a fact.
It's not a fact.
I might have just made that up.
Yeah.
But it's one of the most difficult games ever.
And someone finally beat it.
No, I'm sure somebody beat it decades ago, but I just remember it was really hard.
Yeah, it is notorious for that.
It's like it's known for back then being really hard.
I didn't have a Genesis, so I really can't say, but I've seen it in multiple.
Aladdin was pretty
YouTube
hard too.
videos,
That carpet ride part, you couldn't get through stuff.
The thing about, I'm sure it's the same with Sekiro. It's the same with all Souls games. The game rewards patience.
Yep.
So if you get like hurry, like and like you're like, I think I got him. Like say, you're like estimate that if I can hit him 4 times and then I got to back into cover or shield
because
up.
it is timing with that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what happens is you get, and I did it many times. Like I can get 5 hits in because instead of 4, and I can probably get out of the way without having to shield. And then you get fucked up.
Yep.
You have to be disciplined. And that is a part, I think, of our whole culture as a rule. Nobody wants to be disciplined. Nobody wants to like just stick things out, and they just give up. And we're talking about a fucking video game, guys. All you got to do is just not play it.
Yeah.
Come on. No, if it's too hard for you, don't fucking play it.
These aren't people that bought it. These people didn't buy it. They're just reviewing it.
Recorded in the pits of Detroit, Michigan. Your ass is listening to Radio Underground.